I'm sorry, the first 24 seconds of this side was accidentally cleaned off. Leave machine running. Conversation will start.
Talk and compared our lodge with the one he joined 60 years ago in Pappenville, Missouri. The Eats Committee did their job well that evening, which helped to make it an enjoyable occasion for everyone. After it was voted to put on the new roof, the secretary was instructed to write each member asking for donations to the roof fund. The cost was expected to go higher than the estimate. Response was good, as the secretary reported he had collected $1,877.50. When the final bill came in on November 16, 1979, the lodge was informed that we now had a new roof, but the cost was $7,118.20. Our part was $3,559.10. This was a little more than our treasury could stand, so we borrowed some $1,500 to pay our part. December 7, 1979 was election night. After the election was over, we find the following officers either elected and or appointed: Worshipful Master John E. Hirschman Sr., Senior Warden John E. Hirschman Jr., Junior Warden Robert V. Fonstock Sr., Treasurer Leonard C. Miller, Secretary Richard L. Suela, Senior Deacon Ronald L. Nissen, Junior Deacon Cameron E. Harrell, Senior Steward R. Stephen Cliff, Junior Steward William F. Stewart, Chaplain Willard L. Ford, Marshal Jerry L. Boyd, and Tyler James T. Fonstock. The Master-elect announced there would be an open public installation on Saturday night, December 22, 1979. Installation of the 1980 officers. Before describing the installation, your committee would like to state that, knowing the Master-elect to be a man of mild temperament, one who enjoyed a joke, it was decided that even though he was a member of the Bates County Shrine Club, there was one degree he hadn't witnessed yet, the 7th degree of the Order of the Eastern Star. So we arranged for him to participate in this august event. The Bates County News headliner showed a picture of Brother Hirschman accepting the gavel from installing master, Brother Robert E. Miller, with the caption, "Handing the gavel." Feeling the headliner's description of the events that followed the actual installation would be better than any this committee could provide, we quote excerpts from the publication of Thursday, December 27, 1979. Saturday night, December 22nd, was another gala event in the long history of Butler Lodge No. 254, AF and AM. The occasion was the annual installation of officers, only this time it was a public meeting. Promptly at 7:30 p.m., the outgoing master, Brother Jim Cook, called the meeting to order. Members of Butler's Assembly No. 86, Order of the Rainbow for Girls, presented the open Bible at the altar and repeated the Lord's Prayer. The callers were presented, a pledge of allegiance to the flag was given, and the national anthem was sung. Here the officers installed were named. The new master gave his acceptance speech, which normally ends the ceremony, but not this time. After introducing his wife and family, the master appointed Robert G. Hatton, Master of Ceremonies, for the evening. Dr. Hatton asked all the newly installed officers to surrender their chairs to a new Eastern Star chapter for the time being, to be known as Butler Chapter No. 0 for the purpose of initiation. This chapter was made up from members of Butler Chapter No. 478 OES, which is the legal chapter and enjoys the luxury of having a charter. Under the able leadership of Sandra Billingsley, Jewel Fonstock, and others, the new master was promptly instructed in the mysteries of the 7th degree. End of quote. As he was conducted to each star point station, a charge was delivered and a present was presented to him. Among his collection were a fishing pole, thermos bottle, tea kettle, a pipe, a blue handkerchief, and several other articles. When he was being returned to the master station, he looked like one-man band to go into action. The crowd enjoyed it, and so did the candidate. The time was at hand to hear a message from Mayor Bill Thornton. His Honor touched upon several projects in which the city was involved and the relationship between the lodge and the community. As usual, he threw in several jokes which amused the crowd. The guest book showed about 90 friends and relatives were present. Mayor Thornton dismissed us, after which all retired to the dining room where delicious refreshments were served by the Eastern Star Sisters. End of quote. District Deputy Grand Master Brother Charles H. Boyd made his official visit on February 1st, 1980. He reminded the brethren that as of January 1st, 1980, the charter of any lodge would be arrested if this lodge did not hold at least one meeting during the 12-month period. Also, if the lodge failed to be represented at the Grand Lodge sessions for 2 consecutive years. This was no problem for our lodge. It had been represented each year since its institution back in 1868. Brother Boyd said that according to the Grand Lodge's record, there were about 100,000 members in Missouri. The new Masonic home to be built in western Missouri would cost about $20 million, or about $200 for each and every member in the state. His last remark was, at the 1979 Grand Lodge session, the last piece of legislation passed was a bill that prohibited dual membership. It was also at the February 1st, 1980 meeting that serious talk began about laying a cornerstone at the northeast corner of the building. The master, Brother John E. Hirschman Sr., appointed the following committee to ascertain the cost of materials and report as soon as possible. Brothers Robert V. Fonstock, Leonard C. Miller, and John E. Hirschman Jr. On March 7, 1980, the curator of the Bates County Museum sent a request asking for help in cleaning up the upper story of the museum. April 20, 1980 was set as a work date, and several other brethren agreed to help. Early in the spring of 1980, the Eastern Star decided to buy another piano. Some question about who owned the old piano came up. It was established that the Masons had purchased it on December 19, 1921. On the night of March 21, 1980, it was voted to give the old piano to the Eastern Star so that it could be sold and the money applied on the new one. The Cornerstone Committee was introduced to write to Deputy Grand Master, who will be Grand Master in October, and ascertain if he could come to Butler and lay the new cornerstone. On April 18, 1980, discussion centered around whether we would want to sponsor one person of the Federation of the Blind for a trip to summer camp. Finally, it was voted to send $30. On May 2, 1980, a motion was properly made, seconded, and carried that we have a chili supper and friendship night jointly with the Odd Fellows. Also, that the public be invited to participate. May 12th was a date set. Financially, the chili supper couldn't be called a success, but the fellowship between the two lodges did flourish. On May 16, 1980, the Secretary read a letter from Brother Edward Blinn, Deputy Grand Master, stating that he would like to come to Butler November 9, 1980, to lay our cornerstone. Since Crescent Hill Lodge number 368 at Adrian was planning on laying their cornerstone the same day, he would open Grand Lodge in Butler, lay the stone at 2 p.m., then go to Adrian, where theirs would be laid at 4 p.m. Grand Lodge would be closed in Crescent Hill Lodge. The Secretary was instructed to advise the Deputy Grand Master those arrangements were satisfactory with us. Since our hall had been the former ASC office, the wiring and reset switches were not heavy enough to stand electric ovens and coffee makers. On May 16, 1980, it was voted to have Brother George Rise of the Rise Electric Company install new wiring, reset switches, and 5 new porcelain receptacles in the dining room. The cost would be shared by the 4 organizations meeting there. $32.50 was our share. Then it was voted to give the Eastern Star permission to install 5 receptacles in the floor at their star stations, they to stand the expense. When the roof leaked, some of the ceiling plaster had fallen off. It needed cleaning. The lodge voted to have Cliff's carpet service clean the carpet at a cost of $130. Brother John E. Hirschman, the master, personally paid the labor cost for the ceiling work. The bill for material had not yet been presented. Because of the extreme heat during the summer of 1980, the Lodge voted to recess during the month of August. The Treasurer's report on July 18, 1980 showed a balance of $2,975.99. During the recess, there were lots of work to be done. An agreement between the trustees of Butler Lodge No. 254, AF and AM, and Bates Lodge No. 180, IOOF, had to be signed and recorded before the cornerstone could be legally deposited. Butler Lodge No. 254 agreed to have the agreement made a part of the abstract at our expense. However, the former owner had not furnished an up-to-date abstract. This necessitated adding 4 pages to the abstract. Both lodges shared this expense, which was $22.50 each. As agreed, Butler Lodge No. 254 had the agreement entered at a cost of $12.50. Abstract and recording fees were $39.50. On September 5, 1980, Brother Allen T. Black received his 50-year pin. Refreshments were served, and everyone seemed glad to be meeting again. On Friday, September 19, 1980, all the officers of Butler Lodge No. 254 and of the chapter number 478 OES met in the hall for a picture-taking session. These pictures will be deposited in the cornerstone box along with other pictures of the Butler Square, both ground level and from the air. Other pictures will be more fully covered near the end of this history. After all pictures had been taken, Lodge took up at 7:30 p.m. and the following business transacted. The Secretary read 2 petitions for the degrees, and the usual committees were appointed. A motion was properly made, seconded, and carried that we buy 1 copy of the new Bates County history for our library at a cost of $25. The Master then instructed the Secretary to prepare a list of those who were eligible for their 25-year pins. The October 30th, 1980 meeting was devoted almost exclusively to getting the Cornerstone Committee's report and the progress they were making. The committee writing the supplement to the Lodge history reported their last entry would be the October 17th meeting. This would complete 112 years and 2 days of our Lodge history, having been chartered on October 15th, 1868. Since there would not be enough time to get their work printed, the original typewritten copy would be deposited in the cornerstone box. The next meeting stated was designated Father-Son Night. However, because the 3rd game of the World Series between the Kansas City Royals and the Philadelphia Phillies would be played in Kansas City that night, attendance was expected to dwindle. The Father-Son banquet was held on October 17, 1980 at 6:30 p.m. There were 5 father and their sons in attendance. Lodge took up at 7:30 p.m. The only bill was for ceiling material in the amount of $70.65. Worshipful Master Brother John E. Hirschman Sr. made some appointments to the ceremony committee who will actually participate in the laying of the stone. They were Grand Chaplain Brother Terry D. Boyd, Junior Grand Warden Brother Jerry L. Boyd, and Senior Grand Warden Brother Cameron E. Harrell. Other appointments will be made at the November 7th meeting. One member of the committee read a list of the artifacts to be deposited in the metal box. The Lodge voted its approval. The list as read was as follows: printed history of Butler Lodge No. 254, along with a copy of the supplement written in 1980. Pictures of the 1980 Lodge officers. Pictures of the 1980 Eastern Star officers. Roster of Butler Lodge No. 254. Roster of Eastern Star officers. Pictures of 4 sides of the square, both from ground level and from the air. Picture of outside the hall. Pictures inside the hall. Picture of District Deputy Grand Master and District Deputy Grand Lecturer, Charles H. Boyd and Arthur R. Zilmer. Pictures of opening in Hotel's Cornerstone, July 1st, 1978. 2 copies of Missouri Freemason. 1 with write-up about opening Hotel Cornerstone. Grand Lodge Constitution for Subordinate Lodges. Bylaws of Butler Lodge number 254. Bylaws of Butler Chapter number 478, Order of the Eastern Star. 1979 Journal of Proceedings of Grand Chapter, Missouri OES. Copy of the November 6, 1980 Bates County News Headliner. 1980 Bates County History Book, donated by Mr. and Mrs. John E. Hirschman Sr. Masonic Manual of Missouri, donated by Leonard C. Miller. History of Radio in Butler and Bates County, donated by Mayor Bill D. Thornton. Business cards as follows: Butler Monument Company, Bill's Furnace and Sheet Metal, J. Edward Blinn, Grand Master, Missouri Masons, William J. Hill, Deputy Grand Master, Leroy Cook, who took the pictures, and Jim's TV and Music. Coins: Kennedy $50, Susan B. Anthony $, and 1776 to 1976 U.S. Bicentennial Medallion by Grand Lodge of Missouri, donated by John E. Hirschman Sr. Contents from the 1906 Stone, Book of Constitutions, 1904 Missouri Yearbook, Lodge Bylaws with roster of members and past masters, Lewis and Clark Medallion from the 1905 Portland, Oregon Exposition, Miami Chapter number 76 Royal Arch Masons Medallion, minted day of institution on October 10th, 1872. Business cards: J. O. Hogg, Acting Grand Master, Hotel Cornerstone Lane, W. M. Lyle, T. D. Embry, J. R. Angle, Dr. James M. Morse, Frank H. Cromwell, Dr. H. M. Cannon, and James Crockett. Coins: 1 old penny. No recording was made when the new cornerstone was deposited on November 9th, 1980. To give you an idea what transpired that day, I will read excerpts from the Bates County Headliner dated November 13th, 1980, and written by Brother Robert E. Miller. A picture shows the Grand Master with outstretched arms, proclaiming, "The temple and stone properly dedicated," with a caption which reads, "Solemn Ceremony." The headline reads, "Masonic Cornerstone Laid." Here I quote, "When a citizen observes Masonic emblems engraved on ceremonial and or working cornerstones in this community, he receives a hint of the importance of cornerstones in the life of every Mason. Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Missouri was opened at 1:15 p.m. on Sunday, November 9th, in the hall of Butler Lodge number 254, and closed at 4:30 p.m. at the entrance of Crescent Hill Lodge number 368 in Adrian by Grand Master J. Edward Blinn of Marshfield. During that time, 2 Masonic processions were held, and Grand Master Blinn presided over 2 cornerstone-laying ceremonies. In Adrian, the cornerstone was placed on the new lodge building. In Butler, the placing of the cornerstone on the front of 203 West Dakota Street was another major event in the 112-year history of the Butler Lodge. Members of Butler Boy Scout Troop number 237 headed the procession from the Lodge Hall to the cornerstone site as flag bearers and led members and the audience in the Pledge of Allegiance. Butler Mayor B.D. Thornton was introduced and offered words of appreciation for the positive influence the fraternal body has had on Butler's history. In addition to Grand Master Blinn, others in the procession were Grand Marshal Frank Arnold, Grand Tyler James West, Grand Stewards Ron Neeson and Rick Hirschman, Principal Architect Charles H. Boyd, Grand Secretary Thomas K. McGuire, Jr., Grand Treasurer Robert V. Fonstock, Sr., Past Master with Bible and Compasses Jack C. Zilmer, Grand Chaplain Terry Boyd, Junior Warden Jerry Boyd, Senior Grand Warden Cameron Harrell, Deputy Grand Master William J. Hill, Past Master with Book of Constitutions Jim Cook, and Grand Pursuivant Carl W. Terry. Other Master Masons in attendance: Master of Butler Lodge number 254 John E. Hirschman Sr., other Butler Lodge officers, Grand Deacon John E. Hirschman Jr., and Grand Sword Bearer Steve Clift. Leonard Miller, past Master of Butler Lodge, served as chairman of the project from the time of opening the cornerstone at the Inn Hotel building, collecting equipment and items of interest, and coordinating dates and times among the 2 Bates County lodges, the Grand Lodge, the Metal Shop, the Monument Company, and local participants through Sunday's impressive ceremony. Just as the act of opening a book might be the symbol of the first step toward knowledge, so may the laying of the cornerstones be symbolic of many things. In the natural history of architecture, the cornerstones affects the total result of a building, depending on the efforts of the workman in making it square, plumb, and level. If we compare the burn centers, the children's hospitals, and other charities of the Shriners and associate Masonic bodies to the weather vane atop the cupola, may we look upon an individual Mason as the cornerstone. End of quote. Then the items deposited were listed. It was properly moved, seconded, and carried that a photocopy of this history supplement be made and inserted into regular history book. Motion carried. Again, we feel the statistics of our lodge merit your attention. From the time of institution, UD, July 25, 1867, through October 17, 1980. Stated meetings, 2,121. Special called or open meetings, 652. Total meetings stated, called, special, or opened, 2,773. Conferred the entered apprentice degree, 573. Conferred the fellowcraft degree, 499. Conferred the master mason degree, 463. Total degrees conferred, 1,535. Petitions received for degrees and or affiliations, 1,187. Conferred the memorial services, 406. Conferred the memorial service and degrees for many other lodges. It is with pleasure that we, your committee, pause to pay tribute to those among us known as past masters. Not only did those gallant brothers serve in the master's chair with distinction, but continue to serve in elective or appointed offices. We salute the following. 1969, Alfred L. Jessup. 1970, Buford A. Padley. 1971, Jack C. Zellmer. 1972, Hollis B. Cox. 1973, Ralph F. Silvers. 1974, Charles H. Boyd. 1975, James T. Fonstock. 1976, Elmer Hahn, Jr. 1977, Jerry L. Boyd. 1978, Terry D. Boyd. 1979, James E. Cook. 1980, John E. Hirschman. Once again, after 112 years, we come to the end of the glorious history of Butler Lodge number 254 AF and AM. Your committee would like to point out this is not the end for our lodge, only as we know it today. Many eminent brethren have crossed its threshold and gone on to more loftier ideals. A few have stumbled along the way, but were picked up by those of us who know we must be true not only to our brethren, but to the world at large, if we would preserve the integrity of our order. True to ourselves is not enough. We cannot be false to the great brotherhood of which each brother forms an integral part. Many features of our order, which should be of interest to the newcomers as well as the veterans, is the fact that a large part of the official records have never been published. Those which have been had to be taken from manuscripts, many of which were afterwards found to have been repealed or incorporated into the organic law. Butler Lodge number 254 has been fortunate in having a strong Grand Lodge as its protector. In the early 1830s, the anti-Masonic storm burst upon the entire country with such fury that many lodges ceased to meet. Even the Grand Lodge of Missouri felt this storm too, and did not convene during the year 1835. But conditions improved, and the order in general grew strong. In 1867, when Butler Lodge number 254 came into being, Masonry was still viewed with suspicion. Today, Masonry has become an integral part of our community and is held in the highest esteem. Grand Lodge records show a membership of 100,000 members in the state. Those who have been fortunate enough to kneel at our altar have learned that Masonry cultivates in mankind a disposition to think for themselves, thereby destroying ignorance and superstition. It even goes farther by elevating those who come under its spiritual influence, mentally, morally, and spiritually. To this we can only add, so mote it be. Fraternally submitted by the committee. James T. Fonstock, Past Master. Terry D. Boyd, Past Master. Leonard C. Miller, Past Master. John E. Hirschman, Sr., Worshipful Master. And now, with Sister Charlotte Miller providing the background music, I would like to add a personal note. Even though I didn't work on either committee who prepared the history, it was my pleasure to assist in doing the finished work once the cornerstone was laid. I can well envision the tremendous amount of work those committees did. It was through their efforts this history became a reality. I am sure the brethren will look back over the year 1980 and say, "Well done, good and faithful brothers." Speaking for the Worshipful Master, Wardens and Brethren of Butler Lodge No. 254 AF and AM of Butler, Missouri, this is your narrator, Richard C. Sutton, saying, if you have enjoyed hearing the history of our lodge, then our work will not have been in vain. I sincerely hope every 5 years an effort will be made to bring it up to date. Thank you. Goodbye.
This is Leonard Miller with one final word. This tape is an exact copy of the written history of our lodge from date of institution through October 17, 1980. Any future committees appointed to write a 5-year supplement should start with the first meeting in December 1980. Thank you.